The best midfield talent of his generation, or a soon-to-be Barca reject with ideas above his station? Just how good is Frenkie de Jong? De Jong has often been touted as Busquets' replacement as CDM by some Barca fans. Quite frankly, de Jong doesn't have the defensive work rate to match up to Busquets now, let alone Busquets in his prime. If we look at his defensive awareness, he's already taken a step too forward. All he can see is what's in front of him. He can't see what's over his shoulder. There's going to be a blindside run by the attacking mid here. There's an opportunity to get back and recover, but again, due to his lack of physicality, he can't make up the yardage in time, nor does he seem to want to, and this leaves a free opportunity to shoot. Now, even registas like Verratti, Thiago, they get through more defensive work. What I would say in de Jong's favour is that he has a high defensive success rate, and that's evidence that when he is engaged defensively and he's in the right place, more often than not he comes away with the ball. So he can be a good ball winner, a good interceptor, but for me it's the sheer volume of defensive work that's lacking. He just doesn't get through enough interceptions, tackles and blocks. For someone who seems like the heartbeat of the Dutch national team and for Ajax during his time there, de Jong's passing numbers are quite low. But then again, someone like Modric also has quite low passing numbers, and you wouldn't say he's not the heartbeat of Real Madrid. Now, an explanation for why these players have lower pass numbers than a Xavi or a Verratti is that they're not as obsessed with suffocating the opponent through sheer control of possession, but they want to control the game in a more free-spirited manner, patches and periods of dominance rather than total dominance. And they're more playful and flamboyant compared to a Xavi. Perhaps they also lack the concentration and the sheer endurance needed to continuously get on the ball and recycle it non-stop. Remember, Xavi was averaging almost 15 Ks a game. Nevertheless, for most teams, de Jong is a great upgrade for a team who's looking to play out from the back. Despite the eye test and various YouTube compilations suggesting de Jong is a very creative individual, the numbers suggest nothing of the sort. So is de Jong more style than substance? Well, for me, perhaps the issue is more he's spreading himself too thin. He's trying to be too many things at once, covering too many areas of the pitch, but failing to master a particular part of the game and turning it into a unique selling point. I mean, if we look at him technically, clearly he's got the vision, he's got the weight of pass. He's got, that pass doesn't work out for him, but usually he can spot a pass and play it perfectly. So for me, he needs to focus on a particular part of his game and get in the right areas more often in order to rack up those numbers and have the desire to produce better numbers. Because even in terms of pre-assists at the moment, he doesn't seem to be very involved. So it's as if the game is passing him by. And in fairness, at Barca, the game doesn't really go through him as much as it does for Holland or for Ajax.
To de Jong.
In terms of his long passing, de Jong is very accurate, but he doesn't use his long pass often, and that's probably due to the fact that he plays under Xavi at Barcelona, a team that's not really synonymous with playing long passes and switching plays. What I would say though is when he's trying to progress the game and be vertical with his passing, he reminds me a bit of Pirlo in terms of his range of passing, and he's inch perfect in the way that he can split defenses, but his switches of play are quite average. It's a weird one. He hits more complex passes better than he does more simple switches of play. Now on to de Jong's, arguably his best attribute, his dribbling. He's without a shadow of a doubt one of the best ball-carrying midfielders in the game. He's incredibly press resistant. He's someone who can wriggle out the tightest spaces. Wonderful low sense of gravity. Reminds me a bit of Iniesta in the way that he can chop and change direction very smoothly and efficiently. He's also got a Cruyff-esque sort of change of pace which allows him to sort of glide past opponents. I wouldn't say he's as pacey as Cruyff, but he's got that wonderful balance when he's running with the ball. Very hard to knock off it. Draws a lot of fouls as well. Very sharp on the turn. And he's always got his head up so he can spot a pass while he's on the run. He seems to be able to combine tricks as well as sort of old school sort of slalom lace technique. So very, very difficult player to dislodge off the ball. And that's one of the reasons why, for someone so progressive, you wouldn't want him in the CDM position because he's going to keep vacating it when he runs with the ball.
Alba, Dembele, Fovero, mi Dio.
Despite De Jong's innate ability to ghost into good goal scoring positions and his genuine composure in front of goal, he doesn't seem to have a significant goal threat in terms of his statistics. Again, it reminds me of his assist numbers. So he's someone who, again, has the talent to score and create, but he isn't producing the volume required of an elite match-winning midfielder. One gets the sense that he seems to think scoring regular goals is beneath him. For me, De Jong needs to graft more to continuously get into goal-scoring positions, or perhaps limit the range of area he covers on the pitch and show a bigger hunger and desire to rack up big numbers. He needs to want to be a match-winning midfielder at the highest level and be more substance than style if he's going to become a GOAT-level midfielder, which is what his talent deserves. Heading is another area of De Jong's game which is statistically deceptive. He seems to have a pretty high aerial success rate, which suggests he could be the second coming of Marouane Fellaini and even play as a CDM, but in truth, he can at times be nudged or bodied when going for headers, and more often than not, it's usually a foul on him, but it means he's vulnerable. He doesn't have the dominant aerial presence of a Rodri or a Fabinho, but compared to your usual regista, he's miles better in the air. He does, however, lack the goal threat of a young Scholes, so I wouldn't say that, he's a big threat in the air, but he's got potential to score goals with his head. Tactically, De Jong's been on a journey. At Ajax, he played in a double pivot, and this allowed him to take charge of the build-up phase and share responsibility in the final third with the likes of Van der Beek, who instinctively knew when to pass on the baton to the main man in the midfield. Ten Hag gave him a very free rein to express his natural game, and I'd have to say De Jong could take unlimited touches and drift where he wanted to. The game was played on his pace and say-so. At Barca, he's been restricted to zones on the pitch where he must operate. Personally, I think he looks like a caged bird, and that explains why Xavi seems quite keen to dispose of him, because he's not quite the profile of a La Masla developed midfielder who is subservient to the greater whole. He's more of a free spirit and less of a Pep Xavi style mid. He has too much personality. Now for Holland, De Jong's been used as a deep-lying playmaker or a double pivot under Van Gaal. Van Gaal's a quirky character now, despite being quite dogmatic at times, can be quite pragmatic and flexible, especially when he's run the international team. And for me, he knows he must free up De Jong if that team's going to do anything at the World Cup. And I suspect he'll use Koopmeiners to do the donkey work and Berghuis and Wijnaldum to play as the versatile cam who dovetails well with De Jong and hands on the baton when he wants to drift forward. He's been linked to United, and I'd expect Ten Hag to maybe use a 4-2-3-1 initially to try and give De Jong and Bruno Fernandes a chance to be in the same team together. And if that doesn't work, perhaps he can put in Fred to make it a three-man midfield, but give De Jong the legs around him and the security to express his creative game. CDM-wise, I think Kamara would have been a good fit with De Jong because he's a solid positional CDM who's also good on the ball and could have fed the ball to De Jong, but because he's quite junior, he would have given De Jong the greater control of the midfield, whereas Busquets is the elder statesman and that dynamic doesn't quite work as well. Declan Rice could potentially also be a good fit because he's weak at the build-up phase in my opinion, which is something De Jong is strong at, so they could cover each other's weak points. Similarly with Bruno, I think could be a good fit as well because Bruno's more about the numbers and end product, De Jong isn't. Bruno can't control the game, De Jong can, so again they could cover each other's weaknesses. In conclusion, De Jong is one of my favourite players in the modern game, and the move to Barcelona has been a disappointment. It stagnated his progress. In fairness, most registas only blossom after the age of 25, so the prime of his career is in front of him. But does he have the right vision, and is the right environment in front of him for him to extract his talent to the maximum? And does he have the work rate and the dynamism to be a top player? I have my doubts in that regard, so for that reason I can't justify with certainty that he will become a GOAT level midfielder, but at the very least with the talent level he has, he should be a world-class midfielder, and hopefully in the right setup he will get to the stage where he's earning comparisons with the leading midfielders of other generations. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. Please like, share and subscribe, and see you guys again next time. Bye.